Well, good morning, fellow creators. Ben here from Cinder Studios. I am already covered in paint because I have been down here in the studio for almost 3 hours now, and I'm just switching from orange to cranberry. So let me get you caught up. So this is sort of, these days, a little bit more rare of a Saturday that I have nothing going on, no plans with friends, mostly, yet. But at least for the morning, everything's just studio time. So pretty much from the second I got up, I came back to keep working on this. My new painting, Revenant Embers, which at least from where you guys are, I don't know how much of this you're going to be able to see detail-wise. But I've done a lot more with, see if I can do this and get it to auto-adjust. A lot more detail in here, a lot more lightings and shadows and things like that. So still have a long way to go on this, but it's definitely progressing a lot further. Actually, I've recorded some stuff, so I might as well show you that while I'm talking and getting you guys caught up. So far with this piece, again, I'm really, I'm loving this thing. The real trick to this is because I don't have a regular sketch. A lot of the details and the ideas behind this piece I'm sort of figuring out as I go. So in that case, it's taking, at least mentally, it's a little bit more taxing for me as a project, where a lot of the stuff I plan out a little bit more in advance is more relaxing. This I'm putting in like an hour and a half in each session versus like a 3 or 4 hour session, just because it's taking a lot more mental energy for me to get to where I was otherwise. But it's still a really fun project. At this point, I'm kind of taking a break on it. I will likely return to it either later this evening or sometime tomorrow. But at least from where it was 2 weeks ago, actually last week, I don't think I could work on anything in the studio. I had other stuff happening, which sucked, so I couldn't really get much done. At least for this piece, I was able to layer on the first initial few layers of highlights. And as a result, one, it looks really cool on camera, so you guys are seeing pieces of that now. But again, finding little details and things like the pieces of the bridge that I finally dropped in, laying off to the side, were I think, for at least for me so far, a really nice touch. And at this point too, I was trying to figure out, because I detailed and did all these little windows in the structure on the left, and I'm like, well, all those stuff on the right doesn't have any of that contrast, any of that detail, so I have to try to work some things in, put a bunch of little stones and things into that, as well as indication of a cave. And I think just some of the more detail-y liner brush stuff that I do towards the end of the piece, I'll probably focus a little bit more onto that side, so it actually balances out a little bit. The second thing I've been messing with this morning is a watercolor piece, but a watercolor piece on canvas. Now, I talk about this periodically when I talk about the fine pumice gel medium. I talked about it very recently in I think it was my 5 secret weapons for painting, and one of them was being the fine pumice gel medium. And one of the things I talked about in that is the fact that you can lay it down on canvas and paint watercolors on canvas, which you wouldn't normally be able to do under any circumstances. So I got this base sort of abstract-y wash of color. I decided if I want to do anything, I want to go back to sort of the ink overlay to watercolor stuff that I do for a lot of my more mixed media stuff. Let's see if this piece is hiding in here still. Yeah. This little guy that I did in 2015, holy shit, 10 years ago. I'll put it up on screen in addition to holding it here. This was a really fun little side project. I really like it. I've sold multiple prints of it. I still have the original though, since actually, come to think about it, I haven't shown the original in a long time anywhere, so might be worth getting this one out and putting it back in the gallery for a while. But I really like this piece, and I really like doing little things like this, and the varying sort of almost rainbowy section to this. So I think kind of going back into that well a little bit, and obviously not doing more with the greens. I decided to stick with more yellows and purples and a bit of a red section for this. The one downside to watercolors on canvas is it takes a little bit longer for them to soak into the weave and into the surface. So this will be a little moister than it would be drawing on paper for a little longer. So I won't be able to touch this for a while. I would say the one notably interesting thing about doing watercolors on canvas, especially the fact that you normally can't, is you can just change your mind entirely and completely clear it off. I started this with some like greens and purples and yellows, and I got into it and I was like, you know what, I don't like how this is turning out, and I'm like, maybe I'll just paint the whole thing deep purple and make it more of a Starfield piece. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is not paper, this is canvas. Canvas you can abuse a little bit more. So I'm like, let's just run over to the sink and spray it off. It's like, yeah, right, try to do this with watercolors any other time on any other surface. And that is one of the many joys of finding ways to use media in a very non-traditional way. Depending on how this one turns out, I might do another smaller one as a demo of saying, like, how the hell do you paint watercolors on canvas? And I'll take you guys through that longer process in a video at some point. But I want to do this one first as more of a proof of concept test piece. I mean, I've done it before, but I haven't done it on this scale in a really long time, ever. The first time I did watercolor on canvas, it was a canvas board, and it was like this big. So it's like, I know it works, but I've never done it on a larger stretch canvas like this. So I will do this one, and I mean, so far it already looks really nice. Then depending on how things go beyond that, I will do the smaller one as a demo. Oh, I wrote this down, and it will go into a more dedicated educational video, but I was thinking about how a lot of people will struggle and say something like, well, when I go to paint, especially with acrylics, things dry, and then I forget what my mix was. I'm like, how did I get from this color to the other color? Two ways to kind of help you fix that. One is depending on what you do with your palette, I keep my glass palettes and I use a bunch of them. So when this one is done for the day, I don't scrape it off, I don't hose it off. I mean, I will scrape it off eventually, but this I will just sit in the corner and let dry. So this will tell me exactly how, like, so I have my green and my red and my yellow, and exactly all of those mixes and how I got there are already on this palette. The other way to manage this is to just use fewer colors. And this is what I was in the middle of painting. I'm like, I got to get this down and write it on a sticky note before I forget, and then use it in some other video later. But limiting what colors I'm using and what colors that you would use for your piece. Again, like if you only have 4 colors to choose from, you can't be like, which red, which blue, which thing. You only have 4 to pick. So it's like, you have a lot less headache and a lot less of a worry, I guess you could say, of how to get back to that color you were using. So again, like keep your palettes, whether it be a paper or thing, or just switch one out, and don't use as many colors. I gotta clean up the idea board at some point too. I am running out of space. Well, actually, I probably should. This was last year's art video ideas. Actually, no, 2 years ago worth of art video ideas, and I gotta reorganize them. So I'll shove that in there somewhere. Yeah, there's like 4 different art video ideas just in this whole area on all these big sheets of paper. So I should probably condense that down at some point in the near future. My other weird side project right now, which I'm working on little bits and increments at a time, is this thing for a friend of mine. So she has this old mirror from, like, I don't know, the 20s or 30s that she got from her family, and was like, this is nice, it's a weird, interesting old piece, but the frame is in rough shape. So she's like, hey, can you repaint this frame? Because it's flaking and chipping and all that stuff. And what's interesting about this mirror and this mirror frame is that it's a really weird shape with a lot of strange details. So I've, over the past couple of weeks here, I've been slowly sanding this down. I was hesitant to touch this at first when we found out how old the mirror was, because there was the backing, I had to take all the staples out and everything like that. And like, this wood's kind of old. And when we pulled out the backing and saw there was a date stamp on the mirror, and I'm like, okay, Did a little research as much as we could about it came from the Pittsburgh Plate Glass Company, which made a ton of stuff, had a ton of like little retail shops, and mass produced a ton of stuff. So this piece individually, I couldn't find anything on its own, but there were a lot of similar things that were definitely sort of these mass produced boutique items. So I'm not as concerned about ruining something of notable historical value. That said, as I started sanding this back, I noticed how clean and nice the wood was, at least mostly. So what originally is sort of on this piece, it looks kind of gilded, and I was like, I don't know if I want to touch that so much, but I was looking, I'm like, no, this is cracking and chipping, so it's clearly some sort of an oil paint, would be my guess, which was painted over the wood, and it was just like a gold paint, and on top of the gold paint, they created this faux aging. So all of this black that you're seeing in here isn't actually like age on top of like a metal frame or thing. It's just painted wood with some faux aging, which I can do. I'm very good at doing that stuff, but I would actually probably go the reverse with it, which is paint the whole thing black and then do the gold on top as a buff. Or I could actually get gold leaf and gild it for real. And then my other thought with it is, based on the condition of the wood underneath the paint, and the fact that my friend has a lot of dark woodwork in her house, I was like, there's a chance this could look really awesome stained. So I let her know, I'm like, don't bite yet, because I'm not 100% sure I'm actually going to be able to sand in between all of these little grooves and details without like really stripping down the shape of the wood to an insane degree. But if I can manage to do that, it might involve me getting a different tool for my Dremel so I can get into that a little bit more. Although it's also, the paint's chipping off in such a way I might be able to just come in with an X-Acto knife and really just scrape that down. I'm not 100% sure yet. Again, I'm just doing some preliminary sanding. But there's a high probability that it will look really nice stained. But also, if that doesn't work, I can always just paint it and either re-gild it or repaint it as it was. Either way, fun little side project. There's no time limit on this, but I'm trying to, like every couple of days I'll come down and sand a little bit and give it a little bit more. Okay, so other than that, I'm going to take a little bit of a break. It's getting to be about 10:45 now. I have another section of this vlog, which I will update you on once we get there. So I am making a little trip down to Artists and Craftsman Supply today. I have a couple of tubes of paint I want to restock. So my system on the shelf over here is that, so I have essentially a backup tube for every tube that I have, at least every tube that I try to have anyway. So in this instance, I have like the cobalt turquoise, which sits down here. The one that's laying flat is the one I'm using. And then I have, usually by the time I hit like halfway through a tube, I make sure I have a backup sitting here as well. So this spot is for the Titan buff, which is on the table, which I just switched out. I just emptied one, and I just went down to this one, so I'm going to get my backup for that. My Quin Magenta that I've been using to make the Quin Oxide is now really kind of low, so I might get one of those. I might even get two of them. And then Sap Green's out. The Nicolazo Yellow I'm getting the other replacement for as well, I think. Probably should. It's not on the list, but I definitely should. In my Prussian Blue, which is about 3/4 gone. So I definitely want to get more of that because I use that color a ton. It is an art store. There's always clearance items. There's always unique little things that I might pick up. So the tail end of this will probably be a short clip of me at the store and in the stuff that I picked up if it's other than the tubes of paint. Interestingly, since I was going down, I messaged my friend Tiffany, who you guys probably saw a couple weeks back for our couple months. No, wait a minute. When did we do that? Well, end of last summer is the last time I think she was in a video that we did my first trip to Artists and Craftsman Supply and the haul subsequent haul from that. So I messaged her, I'm like, hey, I'm going down if you want to come with me. And she's like, I was actually already going to make a trip today anyway. She's got some other business in the city today. And she's like, yeah, I was going to make a trip down there. And I'm like, well, cool. Let me know when you're like on your way. And like, we'll meet up there and shop together. So I'm really looking forward to that. If all goes well, I'll be like, hey, do you and your boyfriend want to come by for dinner? Like, but yeah, I'm excited. So I got, not only because I had a really nice morning studio session and got plugged away and got a lot more done on this, but you know, prospect of like meeting up and art shopping with my friend, that's always the best stuff. So I'll check in with you guys a little bit later when I'm out of the house.
Okay, this one's heavy. That looks like a table. You can use that, but there are bigger ones. These three. I think I need Cinder. This one is 134. You could probably cut it with resin and actually use it.
I just shellac it. Put some legs on it.
Right.
So per usual, I ended up with more than I went to the store for, because of course I did. Some of which I can actually knock off my list for the online Blick trip, which originally I had on my list for March, but is now, I was like, well, it's already March, and I'm going to A&C, so I can bump that to April, and now I can actually probably bump that to June, which is good. Most notably are, or at least was, the crossbar issue that I ran into with my Blick order from forever ago. Because I had the like 27 or something square that I bought a crossbar that's too small for. So I ended up getting 2, so I can actually do a nice, real rigid crossbar. And they didn't have the exact size that I needed, again, but I went a little bit larger, so I can actually just cut a little bit off of both of these and be perfectly fine. So that is a good thing. Also, I always feel weird about recording anything in like a retail store, so I was, you know, whispered shots and pans and ceramics and stuff like that is all you guys got for that. But yeah, a little something like that's better than nothing. So I went for 3 tubes of paint. I ended up with 4 tubes of paint, again, because of just different stuff. So this is a holder for the crossbar. Got more trowelly palette knives, which I've been wanting, like this one. I've been wanting one of these forever too. More interesting sculptural things and various other whatever. So the 3 colors I went for were the quinacridone magenta, Titan buff as it was, and the Prussian blue from Liquitex, which is another staple in my studio as well. And then there was the color that I didn't need yet because I still have basically a full tube of it, but it's the nickel azo yellow, which was on the online Blick order trip. But since I was already there, I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's just go ahead and get the nickel azo now. And that was after I picked up the crossbar. I'm like, I wasn't even expecting to find or get the crossbar at A&C, but like, well, since we're here and we got the crossbar, I can kick the Blick trip down the road a little bit more. Something I saw the first time I was there and knew that if I go again anytime in the near future, I was going to get a couple of, and that was the round decollete edge watercolor paper pieces. And then there's all the bonus stuff. Not that some of that wasn't a bonus stuff anyway. Never go to the art store, or any art store really, with a friend of yours who does watercolors, because you will buy a watercolor, which I wasn't expecting to do. I actually was thinking recently I definitely need to start using more of my watercolor tubes, and I definitely don't want to buy any more until I use up what I have. Nope, here we are, we've got another one. I picked up one of the Van Gogh watercolors from the company Royal Talons. Technically this is like a student grade brand, but I've heard really, really good things about these colors, and I've also heard really, really good things about their cerulean blue. And I used to have a cerulean blue on my watercolors, and I don't anymore. So it's not completely a you definitely didn't need this. It's more of a it could have waited. But I'm happy to have it, as always. Because it was an art store trip with me, of course I bought a brush. It's not a super fancy brush, just a simple Royal and Langnickel one. But it was on sale. It was like $2, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And for the longest time imaginable, one of the videos I've been wanting to do actually on my second channel, my brain's going to say sketch every day. That's what it has been called. Currently working on trying to rebranding that channel into the name Sketch Life. But it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time, was just a big roundup of all kind of different liner and sketch pens. So I have several currently in my stock, but I was like, let's grab a bunch of different ones and really see what we can mess with. So the same company that makes the Micron pens also make these Micro Perm, little permanent liner pens. I got a Stadler pigment liner, a Tombow mono drawing pen, and a Pentel Hybrid Technica. I'd never even heard of these. I didn't know they existed, but interested in this as well. So these, along with several others, I will hopefully finally be recording that big roundup review of all the different sketch pens over on the other channel. So that's going to go ahead and do it for my day. I hope you've enjoyed the little vlog journey along with all the stuff I've been doing. Yeah, it's kind of about all I have. Thanks, guys, for watching. Keep on creating, and I'll see you guys next time.